Here we go, top of the hour. I'm Brooke Baldwin. You're watching CNN. We start with President Trump on his way to Indiana to announce the details of his much heralded tax cut plan, and we'll get into the weeds on that in just a second. But first, the president stopping, speaking with media, making a bunch of headlines as he was leaving the White House, including on the possibility of an executive order involving health care. Here he was.
Well, we have a man who's going to be a great senator, and I'm very happy with that. I spoke to him last night. I never met him. I never spoke to him. I'm very happy with him. And I have to say, Luther came a long way from the time I endorsed him, and he ran a good race. But Roy ran a really great race. And I know what they did with Mitch, and they used him very much in the campaign. But he works hard, and I'm sure things will work out. I just wanted to say, though, on health care, we have the votes for health care. We have one senator that's in the hospital. He can't vote because he's in the hospital. He can't vote because he's in the hospital. We have two other votes that are coming, and we will have them. But the problem is we can't have them by Friday because the reconciliation ends on Friday. So we'll have to do it in January or February. But I feel we have the votes. I'm almost certain we have the votes. But very importantly, I am also, during this period of a couple of months, I'm also going to meet with Democrats, and I will see if I can get a health care plan that's even better. So I will negotiate with Democrats, but from the Republican standpoint, we have the votes. We'll vote in January, February, or March.
What about an executive order? Are you considering an executive order?
I am considering an executive order on associations, and that will take care of a tremendous number of people with regard to health care. And I'll probably be signing a very major executive order where people can go out, cross state lines, do lots of things, and buy their own health care. And that will be probably signed next week. It's being finished now. It's going to cover a lot of territory and a lot of people, millions of people.
All right, so let's begin right there with Dana Bash, our CNN chief political correspondent. When I heard him say, we have the votes, but we're gonna hang tight and wait for that vote. I want to work with Democrats, and then he talked about he wants to sign this very major executive order. News to me. What do you know about that?
Well, there are some things that the president, any president, can do by executive order, and this particular notion that he's talking about, allowing people to buy health care across state lines, that is kind of at the core of Republican credo when it comes to health care, and has been for a long time. In fact, during the campaign, Brooke, when we would ask then candidate Donald Trump about his health care plan, that was sort of the chief thing, maybe sometimes the only thing he would say about health care. So it sounds like he's working on doing something to get conservatives to understand that they're at least trying to keep the campaign promise that they had. On the idea of having the votes for the so-called Graham-Cassidy bill that would fundamentally change health care, so-called block grant it, send all the money the federal government has back to the states. That might be true eventually, but you don't really know until you go through the process that they are saying that they're going to do, what they call regular order, have committee hearings, go through the legislative text with a fine-tooth comb, as one should when you're talking about completely changing the healthcare system in America. We'll see if that happens. But they all are connected. As I toss back to you, the idea of working with Democrats. Well, if he works with Democrats, which a lot of people would applaud him for doing, if Democrats are willing to work with him, it just depends on what the terms of the discussions are, then he's throwing overboard the idea of a conservative Republican solution to the health care issue. So, you know, he sounds like he wants to go on a dual track. I'm not so sure how realistic that is.
And continuing on your whole thought bubble and adding on, that wouldn't sit well with a perhaps Roy Moore if he were to go all the way and and take, the former Senator Sessions spot down in Alabama. This was not this was not the guy that the president had backed, and we have all this reporting. The exact quote from our sources was that the president went to bed after his guy lost. He was embarrassed and pissed. Quote. Following that loss, and multiple sources say he's furious with Mitch McConnell, who wanted him to back Luther Strange, and feels outdone by his former aide Bannon. All the while, he just said they're leaving the White House, that now Roy Moore is a super strong candidate. What do you make of all of that?
Well, saying that Roy Moore is a super strong candidate is, it's actually kind of quite typical. If you are a party leader and one person wins in a intra-Republican fight, you traditionally back the person who won. So that is about as traditional as it gets for Donald Trump, for him to say that he's going to support Roy Moore, even though he called him Ray and didn't really know his name, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago.
Right.
But having said that, there is no question that this was a very scrambled situation politically, because the Trump voters or the Trump insurgents who helped push Roy Moore over the finish line in a very successful way, they're all Trump voters. They are the Steve Bannons of the world. And they were not happy, a month or two ago when Donald Trump decided to endorse the quote-unquote establishment candidate, Luther Strange. And yes, maybe he's blaming Mitch McConnell and other people, but at the end of the day, he, the president, decided to listen to those who told him that supporting the guy who was already in the Senate, appointed there, who has been working on your agenda, is the right thing to do. And, we'll see what kind of lesson he takes from his decision.
Dana Bash, as always, thank you so much. We'll talk much more about the politics of all of this, but let's get straight to Puerto Rico. Turning now to the scene of a humanitarian crisis unfolding in the wake of Hurricane Maria. The president considering lifting current restrictions on shipment into Puerto Rico. He was commenting also moments ago on the situation there.
And Puerto Rico is a very difficult situation. I mean, that place was just destroyed. That's not a question of, gee, let's dry up the water, let's do this or that. I mean, that place was flat. That is a really tough situation. I feel so badly for the people.
1 week later, millions of Americans, in fact, most of Puerto Rico, remain without power. How long they will have to exist in this state of fear and desperation, they're saying likely months.
We need to prevent a humanitarian crisis occurring in America. Puerto Rico is part of the United States, and we need to take swift action.
The governor pleading while a tearful San Juan mayor tells CNN about a horrific discovery.
Just yesterday, we have been canvassing one by one all of our elderly homes, finding our elderly, and I'm not kidding, we have to transfer 11 of them near-death conditions. No food, no water, no electricity.
Commercial airlines doing what they can, shipping supplies to Puerto Rico, packing the few returning flights with evacuees, and with each passing day, growing concerns of a mass exodus because of the desperate conditions on the island. But the main airport in San Juan is still barely operational, and FEMA is restricting flights, despite passengers have already been waiting for days and days to get off the island. CNN is there, hearing the pleas of desperation from the Americans.
I had bought a plane ticket before the hurricane, and I'm here since Friday, and I haven't been able to leave. Sleeping on the floor, without air conditioner, it's horrible.
How would you describe the level of desperation?
Oh, to the highest level. And not only here in the metropolitan area, but in the center of the island, in Utuado, Barranquitas, Naranjito, is very, very bad.
There has been looting. The mayor of Aguas Buenas tells me there have been robberies. And when it comes to the feelings of the people of this town, we are saddened because we're still looking for people.
But one message says it all, and an SOS written on a street corner in Punta Santiago, meant to be seen from the air. You see it, SOS. Let's go live to San Juan. Boris Sanchez is standing by for us. You're at the airport. People have been waiting for days and days, long lines, no AC. I mean, just how desperate is the situation at the airport?
There is tremendous frustration here, Brooke. I actually just spoke to a young man that I've been keeping track of since we got here, who says that some of his friends have actually been sleeping in a tent on a pickup truck in the parking garage since shortly after the storm, trying to come into the airport every single day to find out when they would be able to get off the island. He actually just told me that apparently American Airlines lost his information, so he is essentially stranded here like so many others. Since Hurricane Maria swept through Puerto Rico about a week ago, thousands of people have come to the airport. It's become a de facto shelter for many who were either here on vacation or those who simply don't have anywhere else to go. Their homes are no longer there. I actually spoke to one young man from Great Britain who was vacationing here, who said that initially he had gone to a sanctioned shelter and that he was forced to sleep outside because there was no AC. He told me at one point that he feared for his life because people around him were being robbed of the MREs, of the emergency food kits that they had been handed, and he was terrified. He got very emotional talking about reconnecting with his family. Fortunately, he has been able to get a plane ticket and get confirmed, because what you find is, again and again, with so many flights canceled and so many people showing up to the airport, the airlines have sold tickets that are now unable to be confirmed. On a typical day at this airport, you have 120 commercial flights. They're now down to 18. Yet the CEO of the airport tells me that that is a success, because just a few days ago they were down to 9. Yesterday they had 10. Today they're up again to 18. But as you mentioned, the air conditioning isn't working. Something as simple as printing a boarding pass is impossible. Not to mention the amount of energy that it takes to turn on some of the TSA screening equipment. That which isn't damaged is simply too much. They're running on emergency generators right now that the CEO says use about 5,000 gallons of fuel a day. He says that if the situation continues like this, it could become unsustainable. And that's the big fear, not just that the damage that Maria caused has devastated the island structurally, but that over time there are fewer and fewer resources to go around. It is certainly a frustrating thing, not only because of a lack of physical resources, but also a lack of information. You'll have to remember there's not much internet access here following the storm, and cell service at best has been spotty. So what we've heard from a lot of people, especially with family that live in the center and southern part of the island, is that they don't know how their loved ones are doing. I heard from a doctor that works in the intensive care unit in a hospital in San Juan, who told me that she has no idea how her parents are. She fears for their health. They're elderly people with diabetes. She told me that she hiked for 7 hours on foot to get to their home, and when she was about to get to that town, she couldn't get there. The road was cut off by a giant sinkhole. So the resources are getting to Puerto Rico, but it's just logistically impossible to get to places that are either cut off because of destruction on the road or because of large boulders blocking roads. It is a nightmare here, and the fear is that unless resources get here immediately, they will continue to dwindle and the situation will continue to get worse, bro.
That is unreal, and someone sitting next to me can relate in terms of trying to get in touch with family members. Boris, thank you so much there at the airport. You know, it's not just the people who are in Puerto Rico who are increasingly anxious. Their family members, to Boris's point, also back here in the U.S. mainland pleading for help. Jamie Harper, a celebrity makeup artist living here in New York, posted this emotional video on Instagram asking people to please share it and spread the word. She joins me now. Jamie, thank you so much for swinging by. Exactly what Boris said, that the fact is you have all this family in Puerto Rico and you're barely able to talk to, you said, your mother for 20 seconds on the phone?
I talked to my mom for 20 seconds. The reception was really bad. All I could hear was that she made a long line for like 2 hours to be able to use that person's phone, and she told me there's thousands of people waiting, so I have to get off, but I'm alive.
Oh my gosh.
But I couldn't ask her how my brothers are, how the kids are doing. I mean, there's so many. I talked to my brother finally on Sunday briefly, and he told me that he was scared, that he hasn't had food for 2 days, that he took over the elderly people that were upstairs because their apartment was severely damaged and flooded. So they're all trying to help each other, and that's the good spirit of Puerto Ricans. We unite and we stick together, but when help is not getting there on time, it's been now 1 week.
Right.
1 week. And my brother didn't have water 2 days ago. What can I can't contact him again. I don't have a way of saying, hey, are you okay? You know, it's not just me. I volunteered. and I heard many stories of Mayagüez, Aguadilla, Isabela, Salinas. Like, there's people looking for their loved ones, and they have not been able to reach them.
I feel your frustration. I see it in your eyes just looking at you. You talk about your brother, and this is one of 3 brothers you have. I mean, correct me, but as of yesterday,
I have one more in the States.
You have,
yes, and a sister, and she's worried too. We're all
have you been in contact with all of your family now, at least, even though it's seconds? No.
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 So you're left not knowing.
I don't know, and that's the thing. If I don't know how they are, if they're safe. I've been hearing about people not having gasoline. He was telling me about a couple in his building that took their little son to the gas station, and they were like, hey, this is my son. I have no cash. Can you please give me $2 of gas? How are people supposed to get out money of the ATM if there's not a working ATM?
No power. Right.
It's simple things. Even the hospital in Aguadilla, he told me that the windows were wide open because there's no electricity. So if people are coming in sick, or all these things could happen from, I don't want to be negative. I want to think positive, but there's an awareness that was not in the media till recently, and I'm just grateful that finally these voices are getting heard, and that with your help and with everyone's help, that they finally get a bottle of water, food delivered to them.
With the water, you were trying, was it your brother you were trying to get water to through Amazon? And how was that working out or not?
Look at the price for the shipping on the top. For today.
3 million.
No, 3,000 or something like that.
No, I'm looking at the dot. That's 3,000,063.00
for shipping. But that was today, and 3 days ago I tried to ship it, and it said $600 for 2 cases of water. And it's not just Amazon, and I don't want to, I just want to bring awareness. Please, companies, if you see people struggling, do not try to capitalize. I also saw airlines flights that today they're lower, but there's so many people that try buying them, and they were $2,400. People that are going through a disaster like this, trying to get their loved ones, it's not just one person, it's thousands of people, millions of people that want to get out, and they don't have the option.
What just frightened you the most?
I don't want to think of the worst, but if you don't deliver water, food, essentials, people will go crazy, and they will do anything to survive. And that's, I know Puerto Ricans have a great heart, they're amazing, but when you're in desperation and you don't see the news, or you see a shopper that just passed by you and they can't do anything, and you're like saying, hey, help me, I'm here. There's people that are living with a dead person in their house because they passed away and they're not able to get them out. So I just can't stress the fact that if you know things and you know people and you have contacts, keep reaching out to your congressman to change laws, to help us, because we are American people. There's so many people that don't know that.
This is America.
This is America. These are Americans that are being stranded in some parts of the island because there's no access. They need workers for the gas, to deliver gas. They can't find the drivers. You know, there's so many things that are blocking the road, and you can't get to one town.
We have so many CNN crews. It's tough when you just look at the images. I mean, the images speak for themselves, but thank you so much. Bless you and your family. They need help. That's an understatement. Jamie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For that. Just ahead here, we're going to keep talking, of course, about Puerto Rico and the dire situation there. Also, just a reminder, live pictures out of Indianapolis. President Trump is turning to tax reform this afternoon, expecting to outline some of his details on that agenda. We'll take it live next hour. Also, moments ago, President Trump saying that the NFL will, quote, go to hell if it doesn't change its policy on protesting the national anthem. We'll discuss that next.